Hello, everyone, and welcome to Femina into Grazia's virtual beauty carnival. I'm Barry Rogers, features editor at Grazia, India, and we have a very special guest with us today. And we're going to touch upon a topic that's gained a lot of mileage in lockdown, especially mental health. I think it's very important, and we at Grazia believe that it is important to touch upon the subject. It's many facets and everything. And so today we have actor and musician Shruti Haasan joining us, where we will talk about mental health, where we will talk about her personal journey and how she sort of copes with everything. So um, hello, Shruti.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Hi, I'm very, very well. How are you? How's it been? It's been a crazy few months for everyone.
Yeah.
Devastating. But how has it specifically been for you personally?
Well, for me, I kind of anticipated that we would be in this situation
Hmm.
because I personally felt that after the first
Hmm.
lockdown and stuff, that it was it was so important for us to maintain a kind of personal sense of responsibility and discipline. I
Yes.
saw that that really wasn't happening.
Yeah.
So I kind of was mentally prepared that we would get back into a lockdown like situation.
Hmm.
But what I wasn't prepared for was, this large numbers in terms of illness and loss of life and the
Hmm.
medical infrastructure bending under the pressure of this. So
Yes.
I think my approach to last lockdown and this lockdown has simply been very different because of that fact alone. Because
Hmm.
I think we're seeing pain, on the news every day and through people we know, and this virus seems to have moved closer to everybody,
Hmm.
either personally or in their circle of people. And the loss and the anxiety of it has been very, very real this time around.
It has, yes. And I think everyone can say very safely that they've been affected by it in some way or the other.
Yeah,
You've either known someone who's lost a family member or who has had it or who had a bad bout of it.
yeah,
So yeah, it's been extremely taxing. I've spoken to friends who've spiraled, unfortunately, because they've lost a loved one.
of course.
And although while we do want to be there for them, um, you know, we're not experts. And while we may offer, a shoulder to lean on, which is why we're having this discussion, to talk about mental
Yes.
health and how important it is. I'm going to start off by quoting you actually. The last time we did an interview was for our January 2021
Mm.
cover. And you said something that really stuck with me. You said, people need to start befriending their demons. Um, are you still befriending your demons?
Yeah, I think we're a combination of dark and light, all of us. And
Hmm.
that's what makes us such an interesting species, really, the intricacies of us. And I think the greatest thing that I learned about myself is not to
Hmm.
have an ideal that other people have set, or
Hmm.
even worse, one narrative ideal that you make for yourself. And in that, I've learned that it is about acknowledging the shadow and the light, the dark and the bright, the demons and the angels. And so they will keep forming, and sometimes they are useful and sometimes they are not. But I think for me, the process of having that communication and realization with myself has been very spiritually and mentally therapeutic.
Absolutely. And considering we thought we were sort of over the worst of it,
Mm,
um, once things sort of easing out towards the end of
yeah.
last year, a lot of people I know had to recalibrate their approach to mental health. They had to
Mhm.
take stock because I think isolation again, you had to deal with all of those factors that you thought you was probably rid of. Did you recalibrate your approach to mental health in this past year? Um,
Well, for me, mental health has been an ongoing process for a while now because it's been something I've personally invested my time and energy in. I believe in talk therapy. I'm very, uh, regular with my sessions and the work that I have to do with myself. It's like
hmm,
homework for myself, really. So, no, I mean, in that sense, I feel thankful that I was already I was in autopilot mode as far as understanding
Got
that
it.
how important mental health and what is the help available in my life, in my circle. What I must point out, which I find really, it's sad that it took a situation like this for it to happen, but at the start of this lockdown, I was watching the news and people were discussing mental health on the news, and not just as a passing topic, but a whole segment, as
Yeah.
well as separate segments on the mental health of parents, then the mental health of children, then how are the doctors and those in the medical field coping. And this really made my heart so full, because it's about time that we spoke about this casually, because there is a big stigma around it. And
Yeah.
those who even have contemplated getting the help, these are the steps, the ease with which society approaches it and talks about it is what will help people destigmatize the concept of getting help. So I think we are moving in the right direction, because yes, this trauma that has happened collectively to society could have just been spoken over, but it's not that. People are acknowledging anxiety, depression, and a gamut of other mental health issues, including women addressing hormonal imbalances, running the house, being with their kids who are otherwise away at school, and trying to balance all of that. And the conversation has become so real and so connected. And that is the thing that even the virus preys on, is that we're so connected, and I would rather look at the intricate connections that we share, which are very human, and, then focus on how the virus has used it negatively.
Absolutely. And I think one of the main deterrents, for anyone trying to approach mental health, because I know there's so much stigma that a lot of people think therapy means that there's something wrong with you. I've had people come up to me and say, we just need someone to give us that assurance that no, therapy is actually beneficial. And I know a number of friends who've approached other friends, and then
Right.
you start this whole comparing traumas. Like, oh my God, you know what? Yours is nothing compared to what I had to go through.
Yeah.
What do you hear that if someone comes for help, the thing we do immediately is compare traumas. That, oh, you still have it easy, I had it worse,
Well, fortunately, I haven't, had that kind of response from my group of friends. But it is a human tendency, right?
Yes.
And I also think, especially with my close group of female friends, we're very sensitive to these patterns. We're sensitive to how we talk about other women, how we talk about men, how we talk about our futures. There is a sense of spoken sometimes and mostly unspoken compassion that runs through the system of our friendships. And but it is a human tendency to, in reverse, what I found myself doing is, why am I complaining? They have it so much worse. So I wouldn't even open up. So it could be this way or that way.
Or that way.
Here's the fact. Your mother, your husband, your friend, your boyfriend, they could care for the very, essence of who you are in this universe and how much your soul matters. But they are not equipped with the skill set or education or knowledge to guide you into yourself, in essence, So yes, the support systems of people who understand are very important, but they are not trained, and that's a totally different ballgame. And I don't know about others, but I would often find myself saying sorry to my friends for unloading, where I'd be like, listen, I'm sorry, I just spoke about what I was going through. And of course your friends will say, no, sweetheart, it's okay, I love you, it's fine, tell me. But it's not going to the next level of what's next. We need to unload, we need to communicate, and we need to pack it neatly back in our minds so that we can carry on in a more functional, happy, healthy, balanced way,
Absolutely. And I think personally, therapy has helped me become more self-aware, because I think, when you go through the first few sessions, you sort of ask yourself, why am I talking so much? Why am I not getting results? Why is he or she not asking me, okay, this is your problem and this is the solution? And then through probably a month of therapy, which I started actually last year, was that, okay, I'm answering questions that I had about myself. So how has therapy helped you become more self-aware? What are some things now that you instantly recognize?
So that's wonderful what you said. So
Mm,
different people react differently to therapy. So I found, my job, my life, giving interviews, the way I live, the way I am with my friends, I'm quite verbose. And I
mm,
love I love talking.
mm,
Weirdly, when I got into therapy for the first 6 months, I had so very little to say. So
mm,
it was actually a red flag for me about myself that at the moment where the shell can be broken open, I'm
mm.
like clamping shut. And
Yes.
that was a great learning for me. So everyone has different learnings, through
Mm,
therapy. My overarching learning is to take what I have learned about myself, because my fears also, am I functioning because I have therapy? And what if I don't have it? So these fears are very common to people who start going to therapy regularly. But I think I was blessed with a good therapist who was basically explaining that we have a toolkit. Oh God, using that word is scary now. But we have a box of remedies.
yeah.
Jesus.
No, no, that's absolutely fine.
Not that kind of toolkit, like a
No,
box of personalized, like an apothecary box that we create for
yes.
ourselves. And even with a therapist, like you said, you
Mm,
answer, you learn the discipline of asking, being
yes.
unafraid to ask and face, and then answering. And so you create this, I call it like this pattern of 8 that just moves beautifully within
Mm,
yourself, where you're able to connect to yourself and slowly start. And also, nobody is saying through accepting mental health that you're fat say okay. That's just
okay.
not how
Yeah.
it works, because it's
Yeah.
a process. You are an ever changing, ever morphing, ever growing being that will overcome certain things and then maybe get back under the pressure of the same things, or maybe find new things that are not akin to the way you have developed. So it's completely an evolving process. Just so I say, the biggest thing I've learned from therapy is kindness and compassion to myself,
Mm,
especially in this world which is so competitive and so like filtered and perfect. And then I've learned to have kindness and compassion to say, Shruti, you know what? It's okay. You did the best you could do for them.
good.
Now
Yeah.
let's move. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I think what a therapist or a mental health expert helps you with is it helps you build a repository of answers for yourself. So when
Yes.
you answer those questions back, maybe in your first or second session, say a year down the line when you're going through a similar situation, you
Yeah.
have like as you said, like like a repository to tap into. That okay, you know
Mm.
what, this is how I answer that question, this is how it's going to help me out now. You become more compassionate. You stop beating yourself up. That, oh my God,
Yep.
what do I do now? So yeah, I think that that's really nice that you can tap into this
And it's
reserve.
a mental habit forming, just like we
Hmm,
formed bad and good habits. Therapy helps you form the habit of communicating with yourself, I think.
absolutely. But do you have a mental checklist? Do you still journal? Is that something that you
I
do
do.
regularly?
Yes.
Has Because I think journaling is something I find a little difficult. So I actually send myself voice notes.
Yeah.
That I find.
Whatever works.
Yeah, yeah. But how has
Yeah.
journaling helped you? And do you have a mental checklist? Every probably a weekly checklist or a daily checklist, maybe.
I do. So the things I journal is not okay. So I'm a poet, I'm a songwriter. So
Yes,
actually I'm very blessed to have ways in which things come out without me
yes.
with and it's really strange, Barry, because I go so deep into the emotion to create the
Mm,
art, but I'm not having to talk about it in a black and white notebook rule book page sort of a way.
mm,
So that helps me. But uh, apart from that, what I do practice every day is I journal at night gratitude and I
yeah.
write it down. And this
Mm,
has helped me only because the focusing on the smallest of details, because our brain has this unbelievable anxious, like I suffer from anxiety. So my brain
mm.
will go down into the nitty gritty scenario details of the worst case
Oh, yeah.
scenarios and what can happen and how bad can it go. And I said, oh, okay, so I'm able to go down to the utmost tiniest microparticle of the worst possible
Yes.
scenario. But I need to develop a habit of doing that with the good that's actually happening with my life.
Yeah.
That I'm happy for that one really long French fry which came with my meal, and
Hmm.
I'm happy for the love of my family or my cat, or that I
Yes.
have this roof, along with really small detailed things as well that somebody said or did that we forget to. We just glance over the good and just sit in the soup of the bad. That's just so
Hmm.
what we're so good at doing.
Oh
So
yeah.
gratitude personally helps me with anxiety, as well as I keep a track on my phone in relation to my period calendar and my hormones and how I'm feeling. And I note what I'm eating, how much I've worked out, who
Hmm.
I've spoken to sometimes, and I'm
Okay.
able to map out what helps and what doesn't.
Has this year also been a year of sort of trimming people out who sort of don't serve your emotional well-being? Because it's sorry for making it. I mean, I'm making it personal because
No,
it's something that I've gone through too. But I think this year has sort of made me realize um, who's in my corner without putting undue pressure on them, because I know
yeah,
everyone's going through a difficult time too. But
yeah,
I also feel that I think when you outgrow people, you need to be aware of that, and you need to sort of.
yeah,
So have you
yeah.
outgrown certain things or certain people this past year?
Again, I went through this before, and I went through it
Got it.
before when I decided to take a break from movies, when I
Got it.
decided to become completely sober. So it's not even a sip of wine on a birthday party.
Hmm.
That was a big lesson in who was willing to hang on to me without the party. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
who is willing to connect with you on a soul level and grow with you, or watch you grow and be happy for you. And it's complicated, isn't it, with people? And I
Hmm.
think this is a great question, actually, Barry, because I think we value the people that we have, but
Yeah.
sometimes they either and let's keep the pandemic aside, because like you said,
Aside.
it's a
Yeah.
time when I'm super sensitive that people are not their best selves at this
Yes.
moment.
Yes.
Not
Yes.
me, not anyone. But I do find that you will instinctively know
Hmm.
what energy is good for you, or not, to put it in a very basic foo way. you know
Yes.
um,
Yes.
you will sense it, because if you hang out with a friend and then you put the phone down and you're like, why am I tired? That's a good
Yep.
sign.
Yep.
And that's a good sign to say, okay, they were unloading. Will it happen the next conversation or the conversation after that? And then it's up to us to not lose people, to build our own filters, you know.
Hmm.
And if somebody is just still sending shit through the filter, then they're just bad juju, and then you got to
No,
have a very real
absolutely.
conversation. Yeah.
Y-
But otherwise,
Yeah.
I think it's up to us to maintain that filter to protect ourselves and
Hmm.
keep our own lines and patterns. Otherwise, trust me, Barry, you'd be losing friends every week.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I think it's come down to that, where you feel I know I felt like this person has nothing to offer anymore. It's just like a tirade.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important that consent, even when you unload, you need to ask the
Yes.
person, are you in the mental frame of mind to listen
Yeah.
to me? And I think
Yeah.
we just automatically think that our friends are always there for us, that they could be
Yes.
going through a lot too. You need to
And
be
especially
mindful of that.
in this pandemic, everyone's going through their own layers of figuring life out financially, emotionally.
Yes.
Relationships are falling apart or building up, or it's
Yeah.
all in such a flux. So I
Hmm.
think looking into ourselves and having those filters is very important for now.
Coming to songwriting and considering you sort of channel your emotions through songwriting, um, does it then become does it empower you later when you actually put a tune to those words or to those lyrics, and then you can actually share it with the world? How empowering has songwriting been for you in
I
documenting your
mean,
mental health journey?
I feel it's empowering, yes, but it doesn't
Hmm.
feel like, oh, I'm doing something so empowering.
Hmm.
It is a
Hmm.
need I have. It is a need that
Okay.
I have to fulfill. It is a need that I have to communicate through music, through poetry, through cinema. It's a need I have, and now in this lockdown, I haven't been able to write that much music. I do my basic practice and then I don't force myself either, because it's so, especially the way I write is so connected to what I'm feeling, so autobiographical. I love it when people, more than me feeling like I'm powered or anything, I love it when people pick a line and say, I love that, or I love this song, or I was listening to this when I was studying and it helped me get through my exams, or whatever. It's so visceral, isn't it, to be somebody's voice for a time in their life?
Yeah.
Because I love that. I love that, the minute I hear Audio Slave, I'm transported back to a time, or listen to Tori Amos, I'm transported to another person and memory. And I think it's God's gift that I'm allowed to be in that space. I don't even think movies have that same feeling. I think perfume, clothes, and sound can take you back. And taste,
Yeah, especially lyrics that resonate with you, or like a tune that probably takes you back to a point in your life when you were genuinely happy, or when you were genuinely at ease with yourself.
Or even unhappy. And, this song was the only song that understood you, so it's very important.
I have a question for you, for people who find it hard, or for people who just don't ask the right questions when you're reaching out for help. Like, I know, I'm sure personally you wish when you were going through a rough patch that you were asked maybe 3 questions that could have helped you sort of, unload, but in a more respectful way to the other person. Are there any questions that you think people should ask people going through mental health issues?
I think that it's so wonderful that you said that, because I had to train myself to ask myself those questions, because no one was asking me for whatever reason. The closest person that came to asking me is probably my dad and one of my best friends. The number one thing is to really, when you ask someone anything, mental health concerns or not, is to be ready to listen. So when you say, how are you? Really mean it. Watch for the signs of how they respond. Yeah, I'm doing good is not, oh, okay, cool. So anyway, is not the way to do it. So when you want to know how your friend, your lover, your parents, your teacher, whoever, say, how are you? See what they talk about and build on what they need. So I always say that's the most important thing. When you love someone and care for someone, it's not enough that you love them and care for them in the way that you think is right. It's most important to give them what they need in that moment. And that differs from person to person. So it starts by asking, how are you? And the what can I do for you will come from their response,
Okay. Anything else you think? So you basically just build on how are you, and then you take it from there.
Yes, on a basic level. But if you have a mental health concern, I think the biggest challenge, and we must address this, is apart from the stigma aside, when you tell someone, do you need to talk to someone? And you mean a therapist or a counselor? No, I'm fine. I don't need to talk. I have like 10 people at home. I'm fine. I don't have a problem. So to get the compassion across that it's not a problem. I am not able to, I'm seeing that we are not able to help you. Would you like to talk to someone who can help you?
Who can.
So to be very patient with the person and get them comfortable with the idea of talking to someone is the big journey.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think you need to ease the person into it more so than anything.
Yeah, I don't think I'm an example because I was a psychology student. I understood the meaning of this from day one. So the minute I could go to a therapist, I was like, yay, finally. But that's not, everyone isn't me,
Yeah, and many people don't know how to, or are not sort of, I don't think we're equipped. We aren't equipped, firstly, which is why we seek, therapy, or why we
First
seek
of all, it's not a problem. It's not a black mark on your chart of gold stars. So to say, I don't have a problem, I don't need a therapist, I understand that psyche, but to change that, and the more society starts talking freely, that happens, slowly. The other thing which is important is there are people who want therapy, but they're afraid to tell other people, or they're embarrassed or ashamed to say they need help. So to them, it's just to make it a solitary and personal journey.
Yeah.
You don't need everyone's approval for everything.
Oh yeah. Oh no, absolutely not. Yeah. And my last question to you, you know, I read a very interesting article. I think it was either the Atlantic or Time magazine, and they did a very good op-ed piece about how this entire generation, you know, globally, we're going to come out of this more lonely than ever because we've isolated ourselves. And I think it's something that is going to just become ingrained in us. Although we are both not experts, what advice would you give someone who feels lonely at this point, who may not have access to mental health, you know, resources? What are 3 things you think someone can keep in mind when they come out of this? Because then you're working towards sort of shedding all of that, you know, the isolation, the loneliness. What can a person do? Little baby steps, maybe.
Like you iterated, I'm not a mental health expert. I can only speak from my experience.
Yeah.
Loneliness is a human condition, right? I feel we were lonely in our own ways even before the pandemic. The pandemic put a physical cage around our loneliness and framed it under a spotlight. That's all this pandemic has done. But I swear to you, people have been lonely without us even knowing it. Lonely in a room full of people, lonely in a relationship, lonely with a home full of people. This pandemic has put this lockdown, people being isolated, it's further exacerbated the problem. But I feel that we have an ingrained fear of loneliness. And that was something I really worked in therapy on, which is if I am not good company for myself, how on earth can I be good company for someone else?
For someone else, yeah.
So simple and basic. And to get over that fear of loneliness is to not avoid yourself, to not distract yourself with social media and TV or iPad or anything. In fact, just sit through the thought. The same patience we are trained from childhood. Jab koi baat kar raha hai, uski baat suno theek se. Do that with yourself, you know. And yes, isolating physically is very difficult. I know it. I went through 6 months of being completely alone last year. It's not good. When I hugged someone after 6 months, I cried because my body was in shock. You know, we are a breed of, you know, people that need touch and connection of some kind. The other thing we have to be very thankful for is this is not the Spanish influenza where they didn't even have WhatsApp or Facebook or video calling or Zoom. We do have technology in a way to connect. And in fact, for me, I've reconnected more with people with all this time I have on my hands. But mental health speaking, I would say isolation, fear, anxiety, depression is very real. In the same time, there are resources that are very affordable and very readily available today, which are online resources for you to talk to someone and talk yourself through it and understand, because just like happiness stems from different places for different people, pain and loneliness stems from different places. So it's so important to recognize that and to take help. And if you're averse to that, even just speak to someone if you're feeling that way and say, guys, I'm not doing good. Can you check on me? It's okay. This is that time in history which is unprecedented, and we can ask for the emotional support and mental support that we need.
Great. You know, that's very true. That's very true. I think it's just about
and for us to be responsible and check. For us to check. For us to take that 5 minutes to say, how is my friend doing? I haven't checked on them in 2 weeks. Do that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you, Shruti. Thank you so much for this chat. It was very enlightening. As always, I think there'll be a tiny nugget that will stick with me for sure. Thank you for doing this for the Femina into Grazia Virtual Beauty Carnival. And I hope to speak to you again soon.
Yes, very much so. Thank you. Thank you and take care.
Of yourself. Thank you.
Bye.